New Kubi.
Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday, the 28th of July, 2019. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today, Zachary Burgess.
Narrowly evading the hottest day ever.
And Robert Kemp.
Yeah, it's actually quite nice. It's quite nice today.
It was insanely hot, and then it just went whoop, and then that was it. It was like, good, thank God.
It dropped like 10 degrees between days. I swear. It was like 27 on Friday, but I'm pretty sure it was 37 at least on Thursday.
I probably would have postponed the cast if it was that hot.
Yep.
I mean,
no one wants to be around me when it's that hot. It's like, not only do I stink, just the sweaty mess that I am most of the time, and also, I get grumpy and mean.
Yep.
I was surprised by how totally fine it was. I had air-conditioned office, so I was okay. But like going outside, I was like,
it was great.
I'm gonna boil or something. But it's like, no, it's like being on holiday. It's just not like Britain. It's totally fine. Like it's not.
No,
Death
British heat,
Valley.
See, I don't agree with that. I think British heat is like there's a humidity to it and a mugginess to it.
Yeah, but was there on Thursday though? Was it?
Yes.
Was it muggy?
Well, it wasn't humid.
It got humid after that. In fairness, like so
not
Friday
really
was
though.
No, like
It
actually
rained.
on the weather scale, humidity on Friday was in the 90 percentiles.
It was like less than 50 on Thursday though.
The what? 90%
Before the actual rain.
Percentile.
percentiles.
Percentile.
It was just insanely hot. Then we had a nice thunderstorm, and then that was it. Then we were done with that.
I looked on the rain radar picture or whatever on my app, and like all of the awesome thunderstorm missed me because everything, all the wind is going south to north, like it was at the time. That must be where all the heat is coming from, like the Sahara or whatever, directly up, or it must have been
where it usually is.
Yeah, so the rain sort of went, instead of passing over London and going east to you guys or a bit north, it went straight up and sort of missed me.
Yeah, it like skimmed the edge of London.
Yeah.
Over the estuary, and then just came off into the sticky out bit of stuff where we are.
I went sploosh. Yeah, that I saw the video that your brother posted, Rob, on Facebook.
Quality, isn't it? Quality,
it was amazing. Really good video. It's amazing. Lightning
recorded off a Samsung S10,
forking across the sky. It was so cool.
That's the best kind of lightning because there's very little risk that it's going to take out the power grid and fuck your computer.
Yeah.
It's like when it's all in the sky, it's like, you just appreciate it and not be like, shit, now I have to go and turn off all my electronics because other people might just die.
I did see a couple of ground strikes, or bolts that looked like they were heading groundwards.
Well, I only could see, it was mostly on the horizon from where I was, so sometimes they did look like they were going down, but that might just have been sort of like over the horizon.
Yeah, true.
Because they were coming they were going a very long way.
Yeah, they were stuck behind a tree somewhere, and it's like, I can't quite see if that hit. But then what would it actually look like? Just sparks and smoke, or?
I don't think you're likely to see the actual striking part.
Yeah.
I definitely always, like when I hear thunder, often my first thought is my computer on?
Yeah, exactly.
It's not as much anymore, but that used to be the main thing.
No, because mine's off pretty much all the time. I'm not at home now, so
so you're cool.
I've got out of that habit.
And I feel like in general, this may be based on completely nothing, but I feel like in general, there's been less cases where a thunderstorm has taken out my power recently.
Yeah,
maybe the power grid is just better. Maybe my house specifically is better.
I definitely think that feels truer now than it used to. Like almost every storm would take something out, right? Or even
around Needham, it used to.
Yeah,
for sure.
Whereas I don't think I've seen that for a long time. I think we had a random power cut, but it wasn't storm related. It was like a sunny ass day, I think.
Heat related.
Yeah, heat related. It just melted the power lines. Can't run trains today because the lines are hot.
That's going to be a problem for the future with climate change.
Where
all of our railways are designed to work up to about 40 degrees C, and then they get too bendy because they haven't left enough expansion space. You're gonna have to rebuild the entire network.
We just have to build it more. Every new line we put down, we should I mean, it happens frequently enough now. Like almost every year, there's at least one day where it's like we can't run the trains. It's like, well, next time you replace the line, there's a problem you can solve.
I suppose theoretically that's not actually a solvable problem because it's a temperature range.
Yeah, but don't like hotter countries like have a solution to this.
Apparently they stress their rails to a hotter mean temperature or whatever.
Hotter countries are hotter averagely. They don't have a low. Like we have a low and a high, so the range is wider, so you have to leave a bigger gap.
But isn't somewhere like New York much worse? Like don't they have just a generally bigger range than we do?
They don't have as much railway though.
And doesn't quite like Japan have a way bigger range than we do as well?
If anyone's got it sorted out, I'm sure the Japanese have.
Yeah. Well, they just don't. They just float the trains, don't
they? Just levitate those trains. Yeah, it's a good question about New York. I think there is a lot of. I mean, there's certainly a lot of tube track, isn't there? Not tube.
I mean, I would assume that you could solve quite a lot of the problem by like changing the alloy of the track slightly. Like if you can change the material marginally enough to make the expansion different without messing with the wear or whatever.
Also, apparently, like it's better if you use like concrete sleepers
right,
which we don't because it's too expensive. Because it's more expensive. Yeah. But they weren't running out of Blackfriars on the Thursday in the evening. So luckily I went and hang out with my brother instead. So somewhere with aircon. Well, that was the plan anyway.
Nice.
I had to fix my fan. I didn't really. It was the classic situation of my fan had been out for probably. Well, I guess it hadn't necessarily been out. I'd had it for several years. And I was like, you take it out, you put it up, and you turn it on. It's like, yeah, that's a fan. But then after I eventually realised, I was like, this doesn't seem to be working as good. And I was like, maybe it's old, so maybe that's just it getting old. But then I was like, well, also this is a fan that's just like a wire cage around basically an exposed electric motor, essentially.
Yeah,
it's a very basic ass construction of fan. So I was like, well,
is it like a tower fan, or is it like
no? It's just like
an old flower style, right?
So I was just like, well, let me just take it apart, wipe all the dust out of the middle, and then oil it, and then put it back together. And I was like, holy shit, now it works again so much better.
Needed a little
Although
bit
it did then attention. Make my room smell of oil for like a day and a half.
Because it was running actively hot. Blasting
heated oil
smell around. Yeah. You did have like a grey tower fan at one point, didn't you?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Did that die a death or?
Yes.
I do think you're
very sad about it.
Sauron is probably the.
Well, see, I'm not so sure. I think Sauron you might actually have gotten better performance out of a damn flower fan.
Well, I mean, well, the whole point of the design of it is it's meant to suck more air through, but it's just like...
Well, yeah, but then you need to give it space behind it in order to be its most effective.
Do, works in certain situations better than others. Yeah. And probably even like air pressure probably affects how good it works.
I mean, the remote controlliness is nice because it means that, both Gnome and I can control it without getting up.
And that's what Rob is all about nowadays.
Pretty much,
control everything in your house without leaving the bed.
Yep. This is as good as it gets.
With the voice control or with an app? Or is it?
With both.
Either.
And a remote control that it comes with. All the remote options.
Fully remote.
Fully remote. No decent integration with other services, though. Dyson just haven't got it right. And apparently don't buy two, because then the voice control gets really clunky.
Oh, no.
Because at the moment, all I have to do is say, ask Dyson to do a thing, which isn't exactly particularly smooth. But, hey, it works. But if you have two, it's like you then have to start identifying them by name. Otherwise, it won't. Or it will do it in steps, like say, ask this thing to do the thing, and it will ask you, which one? And now do the thing. And they'll go, I might do the thing.
Can you name them what you like, or does it have to be like Dyson 1?
Well, I have actually named our one Sauron. So.
All right, Sauron. Ask Sauron to turn on.
But no, I have to ask Dyson to ask Sauron to turn on.
Oh, okay.
Or ask Dyson to turn Sauron on, which is
Sauron on.
a lovely phrase. Sauron on. And that does actually work. But then I guess I've only got one device, so if I ask Dyson to turn anything on, it will work.
It'll work, yeah. Yeah, we've talked about this before, but come on, voice control. You can make it more natural, I'm sure.
I don't think they support Google either. I think they only support Alexa. So that's that.
Is Alexa like quite ahead in terms of integrations? It seems to be.
I believe so. I believe Alexa supports far more different manufacturers, but usually a Google integration will be a bit more maybe natural language, that kind of stuff. So it depends what you're after. And also Alexa is way more hackable. So if you want to add stuff to it or do things with it, there's like skills and customizations and things you can tap into to do all kinds of stuff.
There's a lot more options. Yeah.
So Prime Day happened.
It did. I mean, seems like a good excuse to buy home automation stuff, doesn't it?
Oh, yes, it did. Because all the window sensors I were after were cheap. So I've now got
So what are they?
I've got a load of window contact sensors now.
So you can tell
downstairs.
if you left the windows open.
Absolutely.
Oh, cool! I didn't know they made those.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you can, but I got them through smart things. There's quite a few of them out there, but you need a smart hub of some kind that will communicate with like Z-Wave or Zigbee or something like that.
I see.
The smart thing sensors are pretty nice because they've got they not only do they fit our windows quite nice because they have quite a large magnetic range. So our windows are a little bit off, like the frame, I suppose, is quite 3D, and so the sensors aren't perfectly lined up where they have to attach.
Okay.
But there's just enough of a magnetic field so they mark as closed the way I've got it rigged up. And the moment it moves, they then tag as open. So they are perfect for the job, which is nice. But yeah, they all communicate over Zigbee, so I had to get a Smart Things hub as well, so they all can talk to each other. And I'm going to do some customizations and get hold of some tools so I can basically just ask Alexa to tell me if the windows are open, and it will say yes. You idiot, go shut them. So I'm going to work on that next, because I can do it all through the app, but it's like it would be nice to have a voice command. But yeah, you need to do a bit of work to get that to.
Can you get it to tell you if you've left the house and your windows are open, like a geofence thing? That would be cool.
Theoretically, yeah, it should be possible. So I could it's one of those things where you have to chain lots of things together. So I could use it if this then that to trigger a virtual switch on the SmartThings hub, and that virtual switch would then run the check to see if the custom code to check that all the windows are open, and then the result of that could send a notification to my phone. So it could be done.
That sounds fairly reasonable.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah,
Prime Day success.
Haven't had as much time as I would like to toy with that yet, but it's I've got a load of them rigged up. I might have to get some more because I want to put I've got one spare at the moment, but because I haven't done all the windows downstairs yet, there's one of the kitchen windows that we never opened that I've not put a tag on yet, or the back door. Sorry, thieves. There you go. You can get in that way.
Anyone listening to the Saladcast, hop over to Rob's HQ.
And also, I might put one on the fridge because Gnome has a tendency of letting the fridge open. I don't know, just like not closing it quite right so it opens itself.
Oh, of course, you could use it for anything, right?
Yeah. Exactly. It's just a contact sensor.
Do the fridge not start beeping?
No, it's too old for that. Yeah, it's budget.
It used to.
It never did.
Okay.
To be honest, I'm not sure. That's more common on freezers than fridges. The beep.
No, I don't know.
Ours does it on neither. But conveniently, it's one of those ones where the two doors are over each other, so I could in theory, put the contact sensor like half on one door.
Oh yeah, and then you could tell if either.
And then either door will trigger it.
If they're both over, you're fine.
Well,
and they line up perfectly as well. Yeah.
Well, and the other problem is that the magnetism on the sensors might actually be too strong for that. So, like a small gap might not actually work well enough.
And what about the door? What about the magnets in the door? That could interfere with the field.
Possibly, yeah. Positioning would be important.
Where are the magnets in the door? Is that what holds it?
All the way around, that rubbery strip on fridge doors.
It's just
where
full of
the magnets
magnets.
are.
Yeah.
Not very strong magnets, though, I guess.
So why are the entire surface of fridges magnetic?
So you can stick things to them.
I mean, is that the only reason?
And also, fridges used to be made of metal at some point in the past.
I guess. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
So they probably wanted to retain that feature.
Right. So people were sad when they started becoming more, plastic?
Yeah. Or maybe there's some amount of theoretical reason for it that's beyond that, but as far as I know, it's just because people like to stick things to fridges with magnets, and that became a thing, and then it continued to want to be a thing.
Yeah, I'm sure that's true. So now, if you don't stick things to your fridge, then it needn't be that material at all.
No,
but it is.
I guess not. And I appreciate that it is.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that I think one of our fridges wasn't magnetic on the actual front of the door. It was still magnetic on the side, so you had to put the stuff on the side where it stuck out far enough that you could see the side, but not actually on the front of the door.
Interesting. I don't know if I've ever found a fridge that's not magnetic myself. Not that I go around Curry's just trying magnets.
Yeah. You could do, though.
You could quite easily.
Take a magnet with you when you go fridge shopping, just to make sure. If you want to stick stuff to it, you better make sure it's magnetic.
The Happy Salad fridge magnet review.
That'd be a good website. One of those yes/no websites, except it would have to be slightly more complicated.
Yeah, does it stick?
Does this magnet stick to this type of fridge? Yes or no?
Was that a bit of sort of 50s Will It Blend type?
Yeah, it was Will It Blend. Yeah, okay. Will it stick? Or I'm assuming they nicked it from somewhere. I'm not sure Will It Blend.
Well, the whole
probably just generic royalty-free music.
Yeah, but hopefully
it probably
it could be like The Price Is Right or something.
It's kind of similar to one of those game show songs.
Price Is Right.
Well, this is perilously close to kitchen bitching. I don't know. My fridge is
That's
still
a good bit of bitching.
My fridge is there's still a big empty fridge in my kitchen. There's no way to get it out. I don't think so. Maybe it just remains there forever.
This is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Hire a giant crane.
Yeah.
To go over your house.
It needs a crane. Yeah. Yeah, completely over the house. Yeah, they need a full-on crane in the road that we can reach over the roof of this 3-story house.
How difficult would it be to just cut a hatch in the ceiling?
In the ceiling,
more difficult than getting a crane.
I don't know. I actually don't know. I don't think there's a way to get it out, but I think it could be hidden in the garden somewhere.
I reckon you take a hammer to it.
I'm sure you wouldn't want to hit certain parts of a fridge.
Yeah, it's probably got some weird coolant.
Some bad chemicals in there.
What's it called? The refrigerant.
Yeah. I mean, it's not as bad any longer. It's not fucking fluorine, but it's probably not great.
Not very good for you, is it? Yeah, or to get out into any kind of environment, let alone one you live in.
I mean, I guess you could...
Fine, you buy a hammer, you buy a gas mask, you go to town.
Then what do you do? Get it out of the house?
Yeah, you can take it piece by piece.
I mean, you theoretically could disassemble it over a long period of time. That would probably take many hours of precise disassembling if you were to make not a mess and not contaminate everything else in the place.
I didn't say I wouldn't make a mess.
Yes.
You could drag it out to the garden patio, but I reckon it would be harder to pull apart than you think. Probably need a crowbar rather than
I mean, I assume that I'm trying to imagine how fridges are made, but I assume that probably most of the paneling is actually just one big pieces.
Yeah.
Like the individual doors, you can get them off, but I imagine the sides of the box of the main refrigerator are probably just full sheets of metal, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, there might not be, and it could just be the nice coating over the magnetic bits.
Yeah, but there's still some structural part of it.
Yeah, the shiny surface will be a single piece. But then maybe the rest of it has to be single pieces for structural integrity reasons. Struts. Put struts. Struts in your fridge. Pro struts.
I drink so little tea because I never have milk that my tea bags are going off. I realised.
No.
I know. Well, they're fine, but like I just noticed, I was like, oh, I wonder what the best before date for these is. Oh, July 2019. That's now. Yeah.
I had better down those.
Yeah. Nah, I'm gonna have
In
to
my
chuck
mouth.
them because I've got way too many.
Gonna suck on a tea bag.
Just do double bags every cup.
Double bags.
Go hardcore.
Will that help? Oh, just to get rid of them quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you got a really big cup?
No, I haven't got like a Sports
double
Direct mug.
I mean, I think I've got that's the mugs that I use. Those big ass Sports Direct ones because those are everywhere for some reason.
Really, they're like double size or something.
Yeah.
Is that
those
so that
ones
you
I use.
Don't have to make so many cups of tea because you just make a big one?
No, because I just like a lot of tea.
You do use the bigger mugs that we have, in fairness.
Yeah. And your big mugs are tiny.
But they're bigger.
Bigger than the rest of your mugs, yes.
Yeah. Well, the rest of our mugs are regular mug size.
No, well, I mean...
Most of them are.
Yeah.
There's a couple of little ones.
Yeah, there's
a couple that are more cup size than mug size.
I mean, I theoretically probably could get away with using 2 bags in one of those mugs. One of those Sports Direct mugs, because they are quite massive. But considering how much milk I already put in my tea, it's just like... It's not like I don't already dilute the tea flavour quite a lot.
How much milk do you put in? Is it like...
Half a cup?
Half a cup of
quite that much.
Milk? Yeah.
But that's the other trick with that whole situation, which I'm sure we've mentioned before, is that like if you do it right in that kind of big ass mug with lots of milk, you could essentially get away with completely forgetting about that tea and letting it brew forever, and it doesn't change the flavour at all at a certain point. Which is great. You forget that you accidentally left the tea brewing, and then it's like half an hour later, and you're like, oh yeah, there's that tea. And it's like, well, it's only lukewarm now, but it's still totally drinkable.
It's a funny thing brewing tea because, like, I don't know, I never like time it. I always go, I'll just leave it for a second, and then so it varies heavily. Like I definitely forget a lot of things. I will time, but I sort of look at my watch and go, I need to wait. There's a 5-minute period here, but I don't want it to brew for 5 minutes. So, like, I'll wait until it's like coming towards the next tick of the thing.
I just do it by colour. That's the easiest way. You just stir the tea bag around and lift the tea bag out, and then look. Well, you only do it like once.
You need one of those mugs that has like the colour chart on the inside, so you can be like, I want my tea like that.
Like the secret tactic to leaving stuff to brew for an extremely long time and forgetting about it is if you have a spoon in your mug and you rest the spoon on top of the tea bag so it's fully submerged, that like prevents it from overbrewing so much. Like I'm not sure
if you're slowing down.
It's like some kind of convection or something to do with the surface of the liquid and the interface with the air that stirs it around better when the tea bags are floating.
I thought you'd just be cutting down on surface area and just slowing down the infusion.
I'm sure like it not moving around probably is more of the aspect. But yeah, if you keep the tea bag submerged, that's the way to make a super long brew, where you can come back to that after ages and it still be totally fine, and you just stir it and it's like it instantly infuses the whole rest of the mug and you're like, that's good.
So you're like so the bottom of the spoon is, resting on top of the tea bag and keeping it under the surface. Is that right?
Yeah, just like pin it to the bottom of the mug.
Oh, to the bottom of the mug. Okay.
Yeah.
So not like on the top of the mug, but actually pin it all the way down underneath. Okay. Technique.
Unnecessary technique.
Gnome tends to make tea very quickly, and has been surprised by the fact that mine tastes better because I don't drink tea, but I leave it a little bit longer than she does.
Yeah, you have to leave it.
You make really nice cups of tea, and it's like all I do is leave it for like an extra 30 seconds to a minute while I make myself a coffee.
So when I'm required to make tea quickly, the only way to get it close to as good is you have to continuously stir it. Just be there doing it until it gets to a colour that is acceptable, and that's as fast as you can possibly do it.
But you're judging the colour. Are you putting the milk in first? No.
Yes.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Because I can't... milk first, yeah. I'm not. I make mine the other way around.
Yeah, I make mine the other way, but then that kind of precludes the whole colour thing because
then it just looks like color. Black.
Yeah,
brown.
So I can't really tell by colour.
You can't really judge the infusion by colour, no.
But I can adjust the colour by the amount of milk. Yeah,
theoretically, yes.
What I do. That tells me I've got the right amount of milk in there, but it doesn't tell me anything about whether it's brewed enough.
I mean, it doesn't really. If your tea hasn't just created enough colour, then the amount of milk it's just going to be white.
That's true. Well, that's definitely wrong.
The only trouble...
That's just milk and water.
This happens very rarely. The only trouble with putting milk in first is there have been occasional times where I've made a tea and then not actually put a tea bag in at any point, but can't see that because the milk obscures the fact that there's no tea bag in there. And then when I stir it and it just stays white, I'm like, oh.
Nice.
This is just hot milk water thing. That tastes like hot water milk. It's just like weak milk.
Well, then you just put a tea bag in it at that point and just hope that it will
carry on.
infuse enough.
It is a strange thing, isn't it? Putting milk in a watery drink.
Putting milk in anything. Drinking milk full stop is basically strange for a start.
Okay,
so,
I think so.
Level.
Yeah, I don't put very much. I do think it's a bit weird.
I mean, I do it, but it still strikes me as just a bit odd.
It's not that weird when you consider that just straight hot milk is a thing that people drink.
Sure, but you don't really other than tea and coffee and maybe hot chocolate, you don't really you don't ever just get milk and dilute it a bit and just go, I like milk, but I'd quite like it to be runnier and less flavourful.
Technically, the majority of milk that you drink is already diluted.
I guess, yeah, but dilute it more, I suppose.
They've already taken away half the fat, at least.
What if you get full fat milk?
Well, yeah, that's not the case where it isn't. But if you've ever made tea with full fat milk, you know what that's like. Significantly more taste from the milk.
I don't suppose I've tried that, actually.
I don't like that.
Tea.
You're practically drinking cream.
Good stuff.
Was there a time when there was no semi-skimmed,
Sure.
You know what I mean? All milk
quite a long time ago, but there was a time when that was a thing.
I mean, when they invented actual pasteurization and all that stuff,
I think it was probably
they just go straight to full fat at that point.
I think there was probably not that long between pasteurization being an industrial process and other types of milk happening.
Right. About then.
It's quite unusual that, I don't know. I'm trying to think of things where the sort of arguably more diet option is definitely the norm.
Yeah, semi-skimmed is the norm, isn't it? Right, that's what everyone thinks of milk, generally.
Generally, I would say.
There's very few skimmed milks that I've ever deemed acceptable. Because they pretty much are, I guess, what we've been talking about. They are just milk and water. Yeah. They don't really taste skimmed, they taste diluted. And I think the Cravendale skimmed is all right. They're a bit creamier somehow.
I mean, you see plenty of, not as many maybe, but you see plenty of jugs with the red tops on. So they must sell it. So people must buy full fat. There must be quite a lot of people who prefer it.
Yeah. There's a lot of people, I think, that definitely... I think there's more people buy the blue tops than they do the red tops. Anecdotally, I've known more people who just straight up drink full fat than I have done skim.
Yeah. Sorry, I got them the wrong way around. Blue is the full fat, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, but green is
semi.
Green is where it's at.
I think maybe the other example of a product where you're going for the theoretically healthier option more often than not might be some kinds of cheese, like the ones that have reduced fat. Those are starting to become more natural in terms of
Is that how they make those light cheeses? Then,
well, not always, but you definitely get the lower fat versions of cheeses are common enough that I'd say. And obviously, the other prime example at the moment, which I don't agree with at all, but that's what the world we live in now. And I wish it wasn't, is stuff like Coke Zero.
Oh yes,
they're just trying to make that just Coke now, aren't they?
They have to
very hard. Yeah.
Well, I mean, in this country, we've got this sugar tax and all that stuff.
That's
but,
why.
You know that like.
Don't they have that in parts of America now?
Well, sure.
Yeah.
What?
And
trying to make it?
Obviously, it was a bit.
Tax?
Sugar is a problem, but like. I don't like how now when you have a Coke Zero can, it just looks like a Coke can. There's just like a tiny black bar at the top.
I know. It's confusing because I look for the big black bottle. Like if I want a Coke, if I actually want a Coke Zero, which I do most of the time now, actually, but it's because a bit of me says, "Don't have the sugar, nag, nag, nag." We're not out now.
It's literally because of this tax. Yeah, I mean, I've also noticed that in my Sainsbury's local or whatever, which is more of a, it's not a big Sainsbury's, it's a little convenience shop. They have, for the same price, they have the normal size like Diet Coke cans, but then they sell for the same price Coke cans that are those like smaller ones that are like tall and just a cylinder without any tapering.
Right, yes. Yeah.
So that I don't know how much they must be, 250 milliliters or something, but they're the same price as the. That's how they get around the tax thing instead of it being more.
Is it the same sort of size as a energy drink can? Because the one in my hand is like a 330, which is the same as a normal Coke can.
It's not quite the fun size can, but it's not as.
I actually quite like that size, to be honest. So I get that. I get the full fat Coke, but less of it.
I always find like if I start drinking Coke, I'm just not satisfied by any quantity that's in front of me.
You would just keep drinking?
Yeah, easily.
I think a can 330 milliliters is sometimes slightly too much of regardless of the drink. Sometimes.
I would say that normally those half-liter bottles are about right.
I think those might be verging on too much.
The 500 milliliter ones.
Yeah, you might be
but
right.
They're resealable. I mean, I get those for travel so that you can, but then they always get, to be honest, like, I don't know, they're never as cold and stuff or as fizzy. No. And then after you've drunk half of it and you've put it in your bag and stuff, then it's really not nearly as good when you.
All we're basically saying is that as has been known since forever,
time
the superior version of Coke is glass bottle Coke.
Oh yeah,
the perfect amount glass bottle. It's just the best.
Glass bottle Coke is in the proper classic bottle as well. It's like
although I did find when I went on that skiing trip, which I'd never done before. I only did it because it was sponsored by my work and everything. It was a lot of fun, but being up on the mountain and stuff, and it's really beautiful, like basically alien landscape if you've never been up in a mountain. I remember because it's obviously freezing, but you're exerting yourself doing all the skiing, so you get quite hot, and then I just it's quite hard to walk as well if you're not used to it in skiing boots. So you're kind of, with the things on the bottom. Yeah. Well, it's the sort of, you're walking on these kind of metal rails, basically, that attach to the skis. So you're sort of trudging along, and bought myself a Coke and like just a can, full fat Coke. And obviously it's always nice when you've been exercising and stuff, but oh boy, I think it was just because most Cokes, they come out cold, but as you drink them, they definitely warm up, and you can't help that. But if your entire environment is basically a fridge, then it's like cold all the way. And that was like pretty much the nicest Coke ever.
Nice.
Recommend that environment for Coke.
Go skiing. Don't listen to Jean-Claude Van Damme and have a Coors Light.
No, definitely not.
No, exactly.
I mean, that's good advice under any circumstances. Don't drink Coors Light.
That might make it tolerable compared to any other time, but I wouldn't risk it.
Have you seen Coors Light's new sponsorship ads that they put in between programs? I suppose neither of you watch proper TV, right? Channel 4, no. they don't Van Damme doesn't seem to be doing the Coors Light ads anymore, but instead they've still got Coors Light sponsors comedy, but they're these hyper tame comedian battle things that are just, I don't understand where the jokes are, because they're immensely unfunny.
Is that just actually the point though?
I don't know.
Is it Coors Light and this comedy is really light?
I mean, if that's accurate, then they are nailing it, because I don't get it. I don't get it. I prefer the double denim than I do the whatever that is.
Because you could argue that the Van Damme thing was like the opposite of light, right? He was like, I'm super hardcore.
And well, yeah, because he was well, it wasn't the whole thing. Like, he was up in the mountains because nothing beats that. He's going there in search of the most refreshing thing.
Yes,
and all he could find was Coors Light, and
Coors Light was ice.
Coors Light was still more refreshing than a mountain full of ice.
Dumb. Anyway, now that the milk and advertising section of this podcast is over, I guess.
I mean, anti-advertising. Don't drink Coors Light. Actually, well, we have spent the last half hour saying drink Coke.
Exactly.
Yeah, giant Coke advert. Although Coke Zero, no, baby.
I did put some
not
Pepsi
as the default.
Zero, not Pepsi Zero, Dr. Pepper Zero in a hip flask, and took that with me to when I was watching the running the other night. Just use a hip flask. It kept it cool.
You look like a drunk at all times.
No, it was quite funny. I was wearing my Man from Del Monte hat, as it's now called. So
definitely
with a hip flask.
What is it, like a Panama hat or something?
Pretty much, yeah, but like paper.
Okay.
Came
Did
from
you say
Venice,
yes?
You know. I did say yes to a hip flask full of Dr. Pepper Zero.
God.
In fairness, it was spiked a little bit. There was a touch of amaretto in it.
Okay, that's the Coke and touch of amaretto section of the podcast. It's time for
weird.
Watched any films, Rob? Film section?
No. Film section? Not since Spider-Man. I don't know if we talked about Spider-Man.
I think we did, didn't we? Yeah, I think so.
I'm going to see Lion King tomorrow, apparently.
Oh, no.
Oh man,
The new Lion King.
Yeah, I mean,
in the non-expressive Lion King.
Yes.
Well, you're just going to be staring at the CGI-ness of it.
Oh, pretty much.
That's what
I did with Jungle Book.
Yeah, it's like a 2-hour demo reel of how CGI has progressed.
Yeah, it was just that was the thing with Jungle Book, wasn't it? It's like, oh, most of the forest doesn't exist, not just the animals. So, like, we rendered everything.
Well, nothing exists in Lion King, does it? No.
I don't know. Yeah.
No, I'm pretty sure it's all rendered. But it looks pretty real. For the singing animals, you'll have to see. I don't really get it, but there you go.
Was the Lion Sleeps Tonight actually in the Lion King animation? Because the trailer's got that in it.
It does, doesn't it?
I don't even remember.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't remember. I thought it was like the thing everyone thought was there, but if it isn't,
I don't think that song is related to that movie at all.
And then, well, they put it in.
But
now it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember that part.
Saw that Aladdin a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I don't know if we talked about that.
Well, that's relevant because that's the same sort of thing, except this is actual live action with actual people.
I mean, it was that was kind of okay. The Will Smithified version of the genie was about as Will Smith as you can expect. So I was happy. Still has a whole new world in it though, because of course it does. And
that's the main song, isn't it? Do you hate that song?
Kind of, yeah. Like it's a bit like "Let It Go" in levels of
irritation.
It was the original version of that.
Yeah,
it was. Yeah. I watched Apollo 11, which is a documentary, which is just entirely footage of, actual footage of that mission from start to finish.
But was that also the one that was shown on the Beeb? Because the BBC ran something that was basically like, it was like a doc, but they didn't really have any voiceover.
Did their 6 hour.
Oh, like a
almost live-esque thing.
Maybe they all just had their own version of it.
I'm sure they did.
I think what you were saying, Rob, though, is it sounds like what I watched in the cinema. It's like there was no narration. It was just, voice from mission control mostly. And the occasional sort of explanation of of a maneuver with like really basic vector graphic like little thing just to explain.
Yeah, I'm not sure that was the same then. I think
Okay.
like it was more. This was more cutaways. We'd cut away to like the interviews they did before it, and then say that they're in they're in the thing, and then some. It was more like, I don't know, a lot of the footage that they took, I guess, rather than actually explaining anything about it. It was just like, yeah, this happened, then this happened.
Well, this film was literally just all footage from the time, like in sequence, basically the whole mission. It opens with the rocket on the kind of crawler transporter thing, moving towards the pad, and it just goes through everything until touchdown, basically. It's amazing the quality of the footage. I guess they just used the best possible cameras and at the time for everything, just to archive everything.
At it.
Well, yeah, they've probably remastered it by now.
Yeah, well, it is remastered, but even so, it's astonishing quality. Everything's in focus, and well, not everything, not the stuff in space as much, but I mean it is. But like, they even had some good there's an angle which I hadn't seen before of where I think Buzz is like filming Neil as he's on the steps about to step down, so you get an alternate angle on the first step on the moon, which is obviously way better quality than the TV camera angle, because that was obviously analog, whereas this is like film. It's quite a weird angle because it's like looking down through the window of the LEM down towards Neil on the steps. But yeah, that was kind of cool. There's definitely some cool stuff I'd never seen before, and it's very dramatic.
Less for the conspiracy theorists to lay their hat on.
Well, you know,
it doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't work like that. But it's a tremendous amount of footage, especially of stuff on Earth, like all of the mission control and all of the people and everything that are involved. It's just absolutely massive.
Oh yeah, I knew they had most of that like filmed, didn't they?
Yeah.
The entire time mission control was on. They had loads of cameras on it, didn't it?
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's also kind of cool. Like I remember seeing some of that footage from mission control and then thinking, oh, right, yeah, some of those guys that were in there were probably the same guys that were in there for Apollo 13.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
The actors they cast for the Apollo 13 film, yeah, they did a pretty decent job with the casting.
Of finding them, looking similar, yeah. It's weird. They were all in their 20s or something, all these flight controllers. Like, it's really weird. Yeah, they're all like just kids, really, 24-year-olds and stuff. Because there's been a really good podcast I recommend as well. That for obviously it's all happening for this anniversary, 50 years. But there's a BBC one, World Service one called 13 Minutes to the Moon that my brother recommended. But it seems to be quite big in the podcast chart and stuff. But I recommend that. It's really, really good. It's got some good interviews with, all the flight controllers and astronauts. It's pretty cool. It's 13 minutes because that's the powered descent.
Right.
And obviously that was the most dramatic part of Apollo 11 because it didn't go according to plan at all.
I actually don't know the story of how it went wrong.
Where they were trying to land, there was a whole shit ton of boulders in the way, basically.
Well, it went wrong in like multiple ways. And the computer kept outputting the same error code like 5 times on the way down, and they didn't know what it meant.
Great.
Yeah.
Didn't they have the developers on call? It'd be like,
yeah, they did. It was sort of. Yeah, exactly. But they they had the people who knew the computer and the software, I guess, in the mission control. But they had no time to like look a lot of these things up. Yeah, so yeah, basically debug it. Well, they basically did figure out what it was quite quickly, which is quite good. But yeah, well, it started because they were going too fast. And then they had, I'm just listening to it now. First of all, they were going too fast and they were like halfway to the abort limit on the speed. And then their communications were just terrible. So they kept like rolling the spacecraft so that the antenna was pointed better at the Earth. So that, because if they had no data, they just had to scrub because they just couldn't I mean, it's like, I guess they could have landed without the communications, but the idea was that if something went wrong, they needed to know why it had gone wrong. Otherwise, yeah, they couldn't
do something that makes it worse.
Yeah. And there was that, and then so they're going too fast, and they were going long when they, and then the computer started malfunctioning, it was all manual, whatever, on the landing, and when they were running out of fuel because they had to like go longer because there were loads of rocks in the way, right? Because they'd gone too far past their original landing point, so they managed to land with like 0 fuel.
A rocky landing.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, check out that film. It's quite good. It's very dramatic. It'll probably be on the BBC, the TV before long, I would have thought. It's not. That's not the sort of film that stays off TV for a long time, is it? Like a documentary.
No. Probably wouldn't be in the cinema for very long either. But
since we're talking about this anyway, let's also just get this out of the way. Check out our YouTube video,
which is probably live right now, actually, because it was uploading earlier today.
Which one is this?
Where we recreated Apollo mission in Kerbal Space Program.
Oh, nice. Excellent.
It didn't go as well as my test run, I can tell you that much. So we got a bit Kerbal solutions going on there.
Did you survive? Did it work?
Yep.
Okay.
Spoiler alert,
Spoiler alert, we did... Well, we technically died once, but we reloaded that save.
Did you make it home?
Yeah. We watch the whole video and you'll find out the trials and tribulations of this mission. It was quite an Apollo 13-esque situation.
The whole extra half hour at the end.
But did you land on the moon, though?
Yeah. Totally.
Okay.
That part's easy.
that all went very quickly, actually, getting to the moon and sorting it out.
It was just getting back.
Also, you sorted out that moon.
Also, we didn't do any of the construction in the video. I'd already built this thing.
You built a moon rocket.
And tested it.
That must be fairly easy to build a moon rocket at this point, though, is it? Or in Kerbal, considering all the other places you have to go.
Well, the weird thing is, if you're playing the career of Kerbal, after you've got... we'll come back to these in a sec. But after you've got into orbit, the next main goal that it prompts you towards is to land on the moon, or go to the moon and then land on the moon. Whereas going to the other moon in the curve that's around Kervin Minmus, the tiny one, landing on that is way easier because the gravity is so much lower.
Right.
And it takes more fuel to sort of get there because it's further away. So actually, the moon landing is arguably harder than that. So it's kind of weird that it's the next thing that it prompts you to do. Because in the whole Kerbal system, the moon is one of the larger non-atmosphere bodies, so it is technically quite difficult.
Right.
A lot of the other moons are smaller, so they have low gravity.
It just makes it easier all around.
Yeah. Harder to get to them, and harder to, I guess, get the intercept correct, because you can miss the gravity well easier when they're smaller. But yeah, because I hadn't played Kerbal for ages, and then when I went back in and refamiliarized myself with it and did this test run, I was like, yeah, I can still manage this quite easily. Let's just make this a video. Get this done in approximately an hour, except it took quite a lot longer because we had problems.
I will check that out. Right, since the topic is now games, it's time for the news.
Yep. Sort of turn it around. Actually, before we completely leave the Apollo thing, and I guess this is technically news, and also something I played, but not enough to be in the played section. They updated Astroneer with their Apollo celebration thing, where just on the Astroneer equivalent of the moon, there's a lunar lander you can find, and it if you stand next to it, it automatically takes a photo with a grainy black and white effect.
That's kind of cool.
And if you stand next to it for a while, it starts playing radio recordings from the actual mission.
Oh, neat.
So you can just sort of hang out there and listen to it for a while if you want.
It's their version of Finding the Normandy crash.
Yeah, I guess so. And you can also, if you find it, you also get a skin for your spacesuit, a classic. It's more of it's only colours, not a suit design, but it's coloured like traditional spacesuit colours. rather than the weird colours that Astroneer typically has.
That's kind of neat.
And I did hear that there is supposedly actually a Apollo landing monument on the moon in Kerbal as well. I just don't know where that is.
Yeah,
you have to scan it
somewhere on the moon.
Yeah. There are ways to find the Easter eggs in Kerbal nowadays, so you don't have to just look that up in the wiki. You could do it legitimately, but I didn't do either. So anyway, news. That was news. That's a patch for Astroneer that happened.
I guess, yeah. Patch news.
What's the big news this week?
What big news?
That there is no news.
Yeah.
Oh no, not another sparse week.
Nintendo's still under fire for its Joy-Cons. That battle seems to keep running on. Seems to have been like heightened the last couple of weeks.
It's very annoying because, so I guess the news part of it is like there was a class action lawsuit in the works. And
okay.
And then Nintendo were like, oh shit, maybe we should try and cut that off. Well, or it seems like what happened was the class action lawsuit thing started welling up, and then Nintendo were like, we can head this off at the pass if we offer to replace to fix Joy-Cons for free.
Head this off at the pass? I hate that cliche.
Yep. Sorry. If we get ahead of the curve and just say we can fix these for free, if you just send us your fucked up Joy-Cons, we'll just, even if they're out of warranty, we'll just fix them. Then we can not get sued, which is apparently what they did, but only in America.
Oh, really?
Well,
I didn't know
apparently, because supposedly
where the lawsuit was brewing, presumably.
Yeah, where the lawsuit was brewing, exactly. Supposedly, this was an internal leak of Nintendo's from within Nintendo's support. Revealed that they were going to do the free out of warranty repairs, and it seems like it might only be in America, but apparently in some other countries, people have phoned up support and been like, "Will you do this?" And they've said yes. So maybe like the internals, maybe it hasn't got out to everywhere internally in the Nintendo support system or something yet.
Yeah, maybe they haven't figured out the logistics for it elsewhere yet.
Yeah. But I'm really hoping that it does happen, because then I can get my Joy-Con fixed. I won't have to, because I still haven't put in I brought a replacement stick. Right. I still haven't put that in. And then I was thinking about it again, and then I heard this news and I was like, oh shit, maybe I should actually wait.
Yeah, I think you're better off not touching it right now.
So my Joy-Con is still fucked.
So do you have the drift or the connectivity issue?
Well, technically I have both, but I don't worry about the connectivity issue because I'm always sat so close to my Switch anyway.
Right, so it's not so much of a problem.
Yeah.
You still have the left con draining faster, battery wise.
I haven't noticed that recently.
Okay.
So I don't actually know. I guess I haven't really played. I haven't played that much recently.
I think that was supposedly something they fixed with a firmware update at some point.
Yeah, I think that one was. But I mean, if we are to assume that they're only fixing stick drift, I probably can't get the connectivity thing fixed at the same time. That would be nice.
There's I mean, I suppose the nice thing about this is that they will be refunding people that already paid for a repair as well.
Yeah.
So they're not like, hey, this is a new thing we're doing. They're like, no, everyone's suffering, so we're just going to be good about this.
But again, at this point,
but in America,
this is all from a leak and then people physically phoning support. I don't think Nintendo have actually announced this at any point yet.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Yeah, so we'll see what actually happens.
In other Nintendo news, they have announced some minor revisions to the real Switch.
Yes.
Not the... I don't know if they announced it or if someone just found out. But...
I think this one was announced.
Okay.
With a little video and everything.
Yeah, because there was something like... so there's a number of little changes going into... It's one of those classic... It's a hardware revision. It doesn't really change anything for... the early adopters don't have to be that mad kind of thing.
Unless what you're worried about is battery life.
Yeah, but it's only getting a tiny bump. I don't know. They'd already said the Switch Lite battery power is only going to be 25% longer at most, and this is way less than that. This is a tiny, and that comes off the back of the fact that the actual major change they're doing is a slightly new revision of the NVIDIA Tegra chip that's in there. So it's not like a more powerful chip. It's a revision to the X1 that's in it, which I guess is a tiny bit more power efficient. So maybe it doesn't need to spin up the fan quite so much. So maybe it doesn't use so much power, that kind of thing.
But it is basically a non-change.
Yeah.
This is like it's not like a Switch XL or anything. It's literally the Switch is this from now on.
Yeah.
It just has this slightly better battery life because of slight other changes to other parts of the hardware. And that's pretty much the only significant thing.
It's like when PS, the early. I always think of like PS3 when it comes to like early hardware revisions because they put out quite a few during its early lifespan. Admittedly, all of them mostly sucked because they were like taking features out. Yes. Like, oh hey, we dropped the backwards compatibility stuff. Oh hey, like you don't need all these USB sockets, do you? No, we're gonna take half of them out. Enjoy. Man, they should have kept that backwards compatibility. It had admittedly, I suppose it was super expensive. Those early ones had like pretty much a full-on PS2 chipset in them.
Yeah.
Would have been nice to have had that. Instead, I'm stuck with the worst of the George Foreman's versions of the PS3. It's like they don't have any of those features, but I think I had the slightly larger hard drive in mine. Slightly. Revisions. What else is going on? Fortnite's having its World Cup.
Boo.
Supposedly the biggest prize pool in any esport
I'm
ever.
sure. Epic are just continuing to spend all their money.
Although there's a reasonable amount of controversy leading up to this thing, like including cheaters being banned and somehow then getting into the tournament again. I guess by being legit. I don't quite know how that works, but hey, it made mainstream news. It's like it's a big enough thing that the Beeb actually ran it.
I think they ran
it.
Dota.
Well, they ran the story, you know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
I think they ran the Dota 2 one at the time, and that was the thing.
Well, I remember that. It's not like you see much on Counter-Strike turn up on BBC. Or...
That's not nearly as big.
Pretty big, but not as big. Yeah, Dota or League, presumably, would be up there. So that's happening. That's not news. Well, it might have already happened. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if it's still currently happening or whether it's already done.
Started, anyway, on Friday, I think. I don't care, so I've not been paying attention.
No.
It's Fortnite. I don't know what's going on. What else we got? Anyone got anything else?
No.
No?
Not really. I'm sure there was one other thing, but I've already forgotten it, which, usually means it's not important.
There's a story that Kojima was considering Keanu for Death Stranding, but ended up going with Mads Mikkelsen. But Keanu ended up in Cyberpunk, so that's fine. I think surely Mads Mikkelsen suits Kojima a bit better.
I think Mads Mikkelsen is a genius pull. It's so good.
Although you can't go too far wrong with Keanu.
No, but if Keanu was are they saying that Keanu would have played Mads' role?
No, that's the question, isn't it?
I don't know if that fits quite so well.
Presumably he would have been the
role, anyway.
Presumably he would have been the biggest character or the main, or the Mads Mikkelsen character does seem to be like the centerpiece, kind of, at least originally. So, not do you know what I mean?
Some centerpiece bad guy, anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
As far as we know, there was some little 2-minute thing that came out that I haven't watched yet about Heartman.
Yeah, I watched a bit of that just now.
I don't know if I want to watch the in-depth character stuff though, because it's getting into spoiler territory to a certain degree.
Potentially. I mean, it was pretty vague, but I mean, you don't really need much more than that long trailer from E3. That was pretty. Gave you a good flavour. It's coming out soon, anyway.
I mean, what is it? September? I can't remember. Yeah, it's not too far away, but it'd be quite nice to actually maybe see a bit more gameplay. I don't know.
That game's going to be so weird.
So weird.
Yeah, I mean, the gameplay, it's still just a complete mystery, I think, pretty much. Apart from, like, it has some stealth bits, right, obviously. Where you have to, like, creep through the woods with the sort of detector thing going while those weird ghosts are around and stuff.
I think there'll be a fair amount of just, walking around a bit while avoiding something.
Probably.
Because that's a Kojima game, all right?
Yeah. We shall see. Bethesda put out Doom, as in Doom, and Doom 2 and stuff on the Switch.
Doom 2 and Doom 3.
Yeah. People got annoyed that you have to like log into some Bethesda account just to play Doom 1, and then
which is pretty funny.
Which is hilarious. But then they've come out and said that they're going to remove that.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Well, I mean, it was an accident, supposedly.
No, come on.
No, how could this be an accident?
Well, because it's a login that's only meant to give you bonuses on your Bethesda Slayer rewards account, whatever. It's meant to be a bonus that you log in while you're playing it. It's not meant to be a DRM of the Doom game.
I see. Yeah. So they say. That's a good.
So they say.
That's a good That's a pretty genius fallback position if that wasn't the plan.
Yeah,
they just
a reasonable explanation.
Bethesda net.
Because what they're saying is that you should theoretically be able to play it without logging it, which I mean would make sense. And supposedly from before this talk about getting it patched was going around, people had tested this and said that pretty much you just, when it tells you to log in, you just put in fucking any email address and it pretty much just accepts it.
No,
really? You can totally use fake emails and it doesn't even care.
Not validating against an existing account or anything.
Supposedly. So who knows how fucked up that actually was. But, that's Bethesda for you, really, isn't it? They make some kind of cock up.
They've taken perfectly good games and somehow made them worse. Somehow.
At least the login thing in original Doom is stylized like the rest of the game.
How does like the original Doom and Doom 2 control on a modern console? They like made it twin stick or something because you didn't really have look up and down.
Well, I mean, you don't need it.
No, you don't need look up and down, do you?
Use all those other buttons for weapon switching probably would be a better idea.
Yeah, I guess.
Since you don't have a number key to deal with.
I reckon they'd be quite fun in portable mode. Well, just generally, but obviously it's Doom. But
well, I used to play the GBA version of Doom.
I mean, Doom will run on anything. But now it runs on Switch. Yeah.
And Doom 3 for some reason.
And Doom 3 apparently. I can't imagine that playing that well.
I suppose that means all the Dooms are now on there, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Doom 3 was such a weird one, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, because it was in that era where people were still trying to figure out where the FPS began changing significantly. Yeah. And
well, it was the first sort of post. Was it the first? No. Was it the first post Half-Life id game?
I think it was post Half-Life. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it didn't really survive Half-Life, did it?
I mean, what did it go on to make? Like Return to Castle Wolfenstein and stuff like that.
I guess it did eventually. Yeah, sort of catch up. But, yeah, Return to Castle
and Rage.
Yeah, which one was Return to Castle Wolfenstein? That didn't quite. That had like
Wolfenstein games, weren't they? Like before current Wolfenstein.
Yeah.
Supposedly the good QuakeCon sales on at the moment, by the way. So if you want any of this on PC, it's currently cheap.
Apparently, according to my Steam list, the only thing everyone wants is Prey for hella cheap.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I had a moment where I thought Prey would be interesting, and then sort of was just like, no,
a passing moment.
Really, I really can't be fashed with this. Don't know if it's that interesting to me. A hot second, as known never quite understands why I say hot in front of it, but neither do I really. But why a hot second? Why not just a second? Because it's summer?
Because you need to emphasise it.
It's a hot second.
It seems like a sort of giant bomb kind of phrasing, that. Hot minute.
Well, yes.
Yeah. Right, that's the end of the news, because there's no more news.
I guess.
It's time for what you've been playing.
I feel like this news lull is longer than it has been for a lot of years.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to remember.
Have we got like Gamescom or something coming up?
Yes.
So maybe there'll be some stuff coming out then.
I guess you could argue it is the gap between E3 and Gamescom, where it's like you got news at E3 and you got news at Gamescom and nothing in between.
Yeah. And then not a lot after that until all the
games come out.
Maybe PSX if they do one. Maybe whatever Tokyo Game Show or that weird PlayStation thing they did last year in Japan. With the talking controller ship. That was dumb. And then the Game Awards, I guess. So still some stuff. This news will happen. Games will come out.
Well, yes, but that's less news. There's a lot of games that are going to come out, hopefully.
When does Madden come out? Because that's like the return of games, isn't it?
It's usually like late August, right?
Late August, okay. Games are back. End of August. Alright, so game.
Yeah. What you been playing, Zach?
Well, I mean, I feel like there's not that much to talk about, except, well, I guess there has been a couple of slightly different things. I went back to 7 Days to Die in co-op this time, with actually another person, only one other person, not really multiplayer. I'll call it co-op. And also, it's been like quite a long time since I last played that, and there has been at least one major patch in all that time. That game is not updating very well at all.
Oh, really?
Slow and still just as broken as it's always been, in new and interesting ways, though. But yeah, since I'd last played, there's been a fairly major rebalance of like all the progression, essentially.
It just remind me which style of survival game this one is.
The zombie one. Where you build stuff in like with blocks.
Is it like first person?
Yeah.
Okay. Whenever you think of these games, my brain immediately goes to Don't Starve, and it's just like, and I'm just
not even close.
I know, and I try and paint everything with that brush. And
this one's like, if you were to just look at it in like a screenshot or whatever, it's kind of hella generic, but it does and maybe did some kind of interesting things. But the rebalance to the progression that they've done in this last match is kind of weird, or maybe it seems more weird if you'd played it before. Because previously it had a slightly weird system where I guess you'd call it kind of old school, where you'd just level up stuff by doing it. Except that kind of extended maybe too far. Like if you had your axe or whatever, and you wanted to get a better axe, you just had to make a shit ton of axes. It was a bit like Skyrim's dagger situation, where in order to upgrade your axe, you just spend when you're like locked in your bunker at night and there's not much else you can do, just make shit tons of axes, because then it would level up your skill at making axes, and then your axe will be better. It was a slightly weird system at the time, but they basically got rid of that. Now it's just you straight up just have skill points that you spend in a skill tree. I mean, it had skill points and a skill tree before, but now it's like everything is in that tree now. You don't grind to level up specific skills. You just grind to get XP that you then spend in the skill tree. So it's some ways simplified and some ways not as good. I don't know. Like, I felt I didn't mind the grind, and also it did give you something to do during the night, where you're just locked in your bunker and there's not really anything else you can do apart from craft stuff. So it was a good time to do that kind of grinding.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, it's essentially
workbench tinker time.
It's essentially mostly the same. But yeah, play it in multiplayer for the first time I'd done it. It was Well, the main thing was that another part of this update is there's been various changes to like the AI of the zombies and whatever. And I played a solo game and this multiplayer game, and we got to the first 7th day, which is where like the horde comes at night, where you have to be prepared, get your defenses ready for the 7th day or whatever. That's the whole point of the game. Every 7 days. And in my solo game, I did it the way I'd done it before, the old way of fortify a house, like surround it with like wooden spikes, and then when the zombies try and path you, they hit the spikes and die. That's how that's meant to work. But I think they've slightly updated the AI of the zombies pathfinding, because previously it was like super focused on doors, essentially. So if you're inside a building, the zombies would find the door that leads into that building and just go for that door.
Right.
And that was that was like, you'd organize your defenses to basically funnel zombies into the passage to your door, and then that would be extra full of spikes or whatever. All your traps would be aligned to that. Now they seem to just be a little more like encouraged to just beat down the walls, which completely fucked me. It's mainly because the building I was in had like one of the rooms at the back stuck outwards slightly from the rest of the building. So it created like a concave corner essentially on the back of the building. So zombies that pathed into that corner, normally they would have worked out how to get to the door, but now they path into that corner, and because the walls are blocking them in every direction they want to go essentially to get to you, they just start beating down the wall. And so they broke in and killed me. I was like, well, that's annoying, but you can solve that by making sure your building is perfectly square.
Right.
Just make sure there's no little divots where the zombie pathfinding can get stuck.
Right.
And then when we did it in multiplayer, we tried a different tactic of, there's these like bridges over rivers that are they're that sort of traditional like triangle frame metal work, which is like a bunch of triangles that make the bridge.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay,
World of Goo.
Yeah, like World of Goo. So we're like, okay, we'll build like a platform on top of this bridge and fortify that, because then the only way the zombies will be able to get to us is to path up the slope of the metalwork. Like, so it makes a very narrow path, and we can get up and down that, and so theoretically can the zombies, but it gives you a much narrower direction that they come from. And we did that, but then we ran into sort of the same problem as I had in the house, but much worse, which is that because we'd fortified the outer slopes of the bridge, we hadn't fortified like the inner triangles, because we didn't think that what the zombies would do is jump up onto the inner triangles and then basically try and burrow up through the floor onto the top of the bridge. So they did that and then weakened the structure of the bridge so much the whole thing collapsed.
How strong are these bloody zombies?
Quite strong.
Yeah.
Especially on the horde night where they get like fast and tougher. But yeah, the whole bridge collapsed and we lost basically all our stuff, which maybe is also a bug.
Are these zombies mutating in a way that their flesh and bone become harder than steel? Like, how do they burrow through a bridge?
No, everything is punchable.
Everything is punchable.
It just takes a long time. But if there's a lot of zombies piled up in a small space, they can eat through stuff pretty quick. But yeah, the bridge collapsed. We lost all our stuff, which was maybe a bug, because theoretically, like, item drops aren't meant to disappear at any point. Or item drops from, like, if you have a crate that gets destroyed and the items fall on the floor, those are meant to stay there, but they didn't. So we lost a lot of our stuff, which we literally only just moved in, because we started off in a house and we were like, do we fortify this house? Do we find a better house? Let's try this bridge thing. And then we took all our stuff up to the bridge and it was like, oh shit, that's all our stuff. Or nearly all of our stuff. So yeah, I don't know if we'll continue playing that or maybe even start over or something. It kind of doesn't matter too much if you lose all your stuff, I guess, because the stuff you have on your person is probably the most important stuff, because you're naturally carrying the good shit
to survive.
Yeah, because you want like your good weapons and armor and that kind of stuff. And also, the whole point of the game is scavenging, so losing all your stuff and having to scavenge it all again is not necessarily that bad, especially because you've also spent seven days getting levels, so you already have skills. And that's kind of if starting again, you'd lose that part of it, so you might be better off just continuing. But then that doesn't set you up so well for the next 7-day horde on day 14.
So even though it's 7 days to die, game's a lot longer.
Well, it's every 7 days. So there's that.
Is there a goal? Is there an end game? Or is it literally just time survival?
It's kind of just time survival. Theoretically, there's a random world generation, but that doesn't work at the moment. But in the non-random world generation, the pre-made map, there's a sort of progression through that map, maybe a sort of lore.
Right, a breadcrumb trail of story. Find
vaguely. So there is some amount of progression towards a goal, but it is more or less just surviving. And naturally, by surviving longer, you'll be more prepared to go into the more dangerous areas anyway. So even in the random world generation, there's areas where it's that's the wasteland type of area. You probably don't want to go in there until you've leveled up a bit or whatever. But yeah, mostly just surviving. So I played a bit of that. As I said, I played Astroneer a bit for the Apollo thing. Because limited time unlocks, god damn it. But luckily, it's not like Astroneer is a hard game. You can pretty much just jump in, do the thing in about 5 minutes, and then that's it. Still, maybe Astroneer hasn't been fixed enough to fix its main problems with its progression. Still more or less the same. They've added a few little extra things, like different shapes of platform, different sizes of platform, which are kind of nice, but not really additive to the progression as such. Just options. I also wanted to mention briefly that I should probably stop playing Rocket League on Friday nights.
Oh no, why?
Because basically I played on Thursday. I was like, okay, this is great. This is all going well. Teammates are doing teammate things. Played on Friday, everyone's retarded.
Oh,
right. Is everyone just drunk and high on Friday night? I don't know.
Probably.
Yes, they are.
It's what it seems like.
So if we got the dream team together on a Friday, do you reckon we'd have an easier time?
Maybe. But
unless of course we're drunk.
Well, yeah.
Give us might be.
But I say that like it was a thing I discovered this week, but it is definitely a trend that I've noticed over time. It's for some reason Thursday night seems good, and then Friday is bad.
Thursday nights, all right for Rockerton.
It's quite weird. And the summer event is still going.
Yep, in the third phase.
And for some reason they decided to extend the Rocket Pass, although
for how long?
Until the next Rocket Pass.
Oh,
which is
weird. So I'm going to get lots of coloured versions of stuff I don't want.
Well, yeah, basically. It's because
I suppose there's a couple more keys I can earn.
The news post about it said we saw the complaints that there was too much gap between the first Rocket Pass and the second Rocket Pass, so we're extending the second Rocket Pass until the third Rocket Pass. And it's that's not really
the third until the fourth. You mean?
Oh yeah, we're on 3, yeah. But it's we're not. That's not really a change as such. That's just we didn't know when the next Rocket Pass was going to be, and now we do know. So now we can just set the time limit.
Right, because wasn't it it was the first one was 3 months on, 3 months off, right? Something like that. They kept it.
Yeah, there was quite a big gap on the first one, especially, and the second one had a fairly big gap after it as well.
But I don't mind that. I think that's kind of nice for it not to be on all the time.
Yeah, and also you're not getting a bunch of dumb shit that you don't want.
Well,
you're getting different dumb shit that you don't want.
Can you trade up the coloured stuff you get out of?
I don't know. I don't think you can because they're classed as limited, where they're orange grade or whatever.
Yeah. Presumably there must be a way of dealing. Do you get dupes out of that system? Or is
I don't think you're meant to. I think you're always meant to get a new
something.
Yeah, a new combination of colours and certification or whatever.
Right. I mean, I feel like I've been dealt a pretty bad hand so far of my coloured stuff.
I don't feel like this pass has been good in general for the stuff that they have coloured versions of.
Yeah.
Those goddamn ugly head wheels.
Yeah. Well, I've got one of those. Admittedly, those are the ones I don't seem to have very many of. I've got one of those in black,
which means
you can barely see the head.
Yeah, that does help.
Can I have the number 1 version? The one without the head.
Yeah, without the head.
Yeah.
I don't know why they don't do that. because like all of the coloured things are like the highest tier version of those things, whereas they could have easily had all the tiers be having coloured versions.
It's like, can the boosts in this one be coloured? I don't think I've seen those.
The slash boost, yeah.
Oh, it can.
Yeah.
Okay, I've not seen that yet. I've not seen the trails.
But the slash boost and the trails are real boring as well in this pass.
Well, yeah, they're kind of classic. Like,
kind of. The goal explosion isn't that interesting.
Well, because it's just poof.
Yeah. Well, no, not the poof.
What's the other one?
The big explosion. You've probably seen it several times while we've been playing.
Probably, I can't remember.
Which is why I say it's not
yeah, the slash explosions.
Slash
I've got one of those in the black and white one, so that's the good one.
Yeah, the good colours. But like, it's not a very interesting explosion.
It's alright.
The skins aren't that interesting. I mean, shield glitch is okay, I guess, if you like that weird effect.
I've got lots of coloured versions of that.
So yeah, I don't know.
And percussion.
Not the greatest.
There's a weird sort of divide, isn't there, in the skins front, the animated skins. Like, some of them are like clearly just they're moving vectors around or something like that, so they animate smoothly. And then you've got the ones that are like a video or something, like and like animate at 30 frames, and they look a bit weirdly out of place. Those ones compared to some of the stuff.
Maybe. But yeah.
Anyway, League is still League.
It's weird that they're continuing that Rocket Pass for so long.
Yeah. Oh, well, that means I can earn all the keys.
Well, yeah, that is a good thing for you to get all those keys and then basically get the next Rocket Pass for free.
I've got enough keys for the next one already, so I'm good.
Well, in that case, you can't.
Because I had an overlap.
Oh,
because I didn't earn enough in the last. Yeah.
That's right. And then, well, I play more Factorio, but there's not much to say about that. There's been quite a discussion on the Factorio forums currently because they're proposing some significant changes to like oil processing that have pissed everyone off.
How have they annoyed people?
Well, basically, when you first unlock oil processing, it's quite a big step in complexity. Like, you're getting all the you're having to get oil, and then you're having to refine oil, and the output of the refinery is like 3 different types of oil, and then you're processing that into like different things, and you're having to make all these other new items like advanced circuits that are made from plastic and that kind of stuff, just to make the next level of the science pack, which you need to progress further down the tech tree. So, like, the whole oil processing step is quite significant, and it's long been known as a sort of a place where where new players might give up.
It's like a difficulty spike type
it's
thing.
like a difficulty spike. So they've, obviously you might want to try and smooth that difficulty spike out somewhat. But the change that they've suggested to solve this problem is mainly focused around the fact that the oil refinery outputs 3 different types of oil, basically, when you convert the crude oil into the different products. Because the problem that is most often seen in like new players coming in to make a forum post is that the refinery stops working if any one of the products backs up. So you have
to be dealing with all 3 fractions at the right rate.
So theoretically, the normal way to solve that is you just put down a big old storage tank and just store the stuff you're not using for later. And then later down the tech tree, you get new ways to deal with those other products.
Okay, but then, okay.
So that's the thing that is being focused on as like the big problem for new players or whatever. They don't understand why oil works, which is kind of like, as I've just sort of explained in that whole bit where I was talking about what is contained in oil processing. It's like, it's such a minor part of that whole like step in complexity. But that seems to be the big thing that they're focusing on. And what they've suggested to fix it is basically make the oil refinery only output one thing, which is kind of sort of counterintuitive to what a refinery is.
Well, that's kind of lame. I guess you can't just dump excess stuff, can you? You'd have to store it.
Well, that's the other suggestion people have been saying. It's like, if you don't want to make a ton of storage tanks to store the excess stuff, just make like a flare stack that just burns it.
Right, yeah. Sure.
Which, I mean, plenty of the mods do have flare stacks in them, but that's generally because mods introduce a whole bunch of other fluids that have lots of complicated ways of using them that maybe you don't necessarily have at the current point in that tech tree or whatever. But in the base game, and there's been other attempts to balance this previously, like they changed the chemical science pack to include solid fuel, which was a way to use up the other oil products that you weren't using by converting it into solid fuel. And it's like that sort of was a way to work around that problem. But yeah, this weird like one output refinery situation has generally annoyed people who like complexity. And the thing that I argued on this forum post,
because you got to stick your ore in, right? Yeah,
was that surely the answer to this problem is make a tutorial for the oil process, because you have this incredibly fancy built-in tutorial system in Factorio where like it has tutorials for like trains and robots already, where you select the tutorial and it basically puts you in sort of a separate world. It like pauses your actual game, takes you into this separate sort of clean room environment, and then just steps you through whatever the tutorial was trying to tell you about. It's like, just make one of those for the oil process, and surely that would be the most logical way to solve this problem, right? Just tell people what the problems are to do with oil and hint at what the solutions are. But, you know, that's my opinion. I say just make a tutorial and then... Well, I say just make a tutorial and then wait and see whether it solves the problem or not. Don't make these really, like, quite complicated rebalances to the whole thing without tutorializing the thing you already have. But, you know, we'll see. They've already delayed that patch for a whole week after the first post got huge. For the first forum thread got a very large amount of posts, so they delayed it, and then this week's developer update has also got an equally large amount of posts attached to it. So who knows what will happen? But at least, you know, at least they are theoretically listening to the discussion, the developers, taking consideration of what people think.
Yeah, that's good.
Watching it casually from afar, and then just to go, nope.
Yeah, that is increasingly what it seems like at this point. I mean, the second revision of this week's post, where they took the original idea and adjusted it somewhat, seems to suggest that they're kind of sticking to their guns, but are just slightly adjusting their guns.
So one of those things where there's a bigger plan that they haven't revealed yet, though, like it feeds into some other part of this.
I don't think so, because as I said, it's sort of just a simplification of this one specific thing, and it doesn't even necessarily solve the problem of the multiple output oil refinery. It just sort of moves that further up the tech tree, because you still get the multiple output recipe at a certain point. You just now have this much simpler one first, and it's like it's meant to smooth the difficulty curve, but I'm not sure it really does. It just like moves the difficulty spike to a different place.
Is there any? Are they worried about when they eventually actually launch? Like that's too obtuse a hurdle.
Well, I mean,
that it's fine for you guys.
Well, that's
you're in it
why I
so
say
long,
make tutorials.
Yeah,
their tutorial system is so good; it's like a well-designed system. It just doesn't have many tutorials in it.
Right. They have a tutorial system that's just not fleshed out enough.
Yeah,
which is kind of makes sense if they were planning on doing like more changes to some of these mechanics. Like
you don't want to spend time making a tutorial for a thing you're going to change anyway.
Let's not waste putting tutorial in now.
Yeah. But this late on, this theoretically close to release, as they keep saying, you shouldn't be doing this much of a rebalance, really, surely. Just polish, finish up.
I mean, it's been so long coming, yeah, at this point, maybe they should really focus on just getting it out.
So yeah, that's what's been going on.
Would anyone really be really unhappy at this point if they just said...
If they just released what it is now, yeah. Factorio forums having their own Frednaughts. Not nearly as big as EVE Online forum Frednaughts, though. It's only like 30 posts, not like 500.
30 posts is fine. The average legitimate issue on a support forum.
Yeah, exactly. And then I guess there has been like one new thing that I played, I guess. I played the demo because, oh my god, an actual demo exists.
Wow.
Of a game called, I'm not even sure how to pronounce it, Automachef.
Oh, right, yeah. I've seen that turn up. Oh, yeah, Automachef, I think you're right.
Yeah, what it looks like.
What's the deal with that?
It's basically if you took Factorio and you took Overcooked and you mashed them into one thing.
Okay.
So wait, you're just cooking by belts rather than...
You're just moving the ingredients around with belts and arms to make the food products and then assemble them in the right order and put them out to the restaurant depending on what orders are coming in.
So you have to keep
I suppose
adjusting the machine constantly, or how do you?
No, it's more like design the machine to account for the different eventualities of different orders.
Oh, okay. Right, I see. So you're effectively having to, like, if this order comes in,
do these certain
machine
events.
program in this way.
Yeah.
Okay. I was kind of hoping there'd be a bit more of a chaos element to it, but
well, the thing is, the demo doesn't go very far into it, but it does sound like there are some elements of like weird like problems that you can get. I mean, stuff can set on fire, but then you kind of have to build firearms to put out the fire. So it's like you're still preemptively doing this thing. It seems like it's not like a reaction thing.
So you kind of have to identify where there may be a problem, and that problem may just sometimes occur.
Yeah, maybe. It's not really. You don't get to any of that in the demo. So
maybe there's risky foods or something. Yeah,
it does briefly mention like if a piece of food stays stationary for too long, it can start attracting like insects. So it's like you're having to worry. But then that's just the automation aspect of like you want everything to be continuously moving because that's the most efficient way of doing it.
Yeah, don't let it sit. Don't have a queue.
Yeah. So yeah, that game seems, from the demo,
sounds like an interesting version of one of those.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not overly expensive. It's only like 10 quid. I think it's on a 10% sale as well at the moment for release.
All right.
And it's also on Switch if you want that.
Oh, is it really?
Yep.
Nice.
So I don't know. Maybe I'll get into that. Maybe I'll get it for real, not just play the demo. Don't know.
Oh, that's weird.
And that may be it. Again, as always, I feel like there's something I've forgotten that just got overwritten at a certain point.
Well, step in if you remember.
I played some Smash Brothers.
Oh right, just casually.
Yeah, just for a minute. Well, as I was thinking about the Switch, I was like, I need to play some Smash Brothers. In fact, I even played almost legit Smash Brothers. I was like, let's do a free stock 1-on-1 against level 7 CPUs. So it's real easy.
I played a couple of. This could be a good transition point. I played a couple of stock matches against one of my Cambridge crew, and because he was like, "No, you have to play. It's 3 stock.
You have
the
to
way
do
you
it for
play."
real.
And I'm like, "No, mate. Like, put it in maximum random time battle. Like, I don't care about like you see, but you can cheese it and run away." And it's like, yeah, but then you're an asshole.
Yeah,
like, just don't play that way.
Then you play Sonic and you're a bad person.
Well, that's actually what happened. I ended up picking random characters.
Yeah,
and I got a match where I was Sonic versus Peach, and like, oh yeah, Sonic is randomly kick ass, right? Like, I just completely annihilated him as Sonic, and then he completely took me down as Marth. So that's fair,
traditional.
Yeah,
but Sonic is the classic, the classic old school in Brawl of the Sonic is the character you play if you want to time out your opponent.
Oh yeah,
because you can just run away forever.
Right. Okay. Yeah. He has. I think he has a lot of moves that just sort of generally seem to take priority as well. Like the homing attack, especially against Peach. There were plenty of moments where the homing attack looked like 2 attacks would collide, and what felt like should have been a clash would just be, oh yeah, Sonic hit.
Yeah, I don't know I don't think the homing attack has any kind of armor. I don't think
so. No, but it was just like, I don't know, like homing attack versus Peach's hot char. It seemed to be like the most obvious one, and it's like Sonic would always win that, and it's like, how does that work? Yeah. Anyway, that was a fun one. It was weird playing it in that style, like because I generally don't.
No.
But it was entertaining. At least we did that very briefly. Oh, and I too also spent quite a lot of time on the Switch that weekend.
I think the one thing about free stock 1-on-1 Smash that we don't get in multiplayer is the what is really the crux of Smash, you could argue, is like edge guards. Right. Actually having one person be in a disadvantaged position and you have to deal with it. Yeah, you have to plan ahead and position yourself and do a move at the right time.
Yeah, because I think I'm bad at that.
Because if you're doing that in the way we traditionally play Smash, there's someone else will come up behind you.
Yeah, someone else will come get you and stop you from doing that. Yeah, so I have no idea how to do most of those strategies.
No,
like even after playing however much of the solo I've played, it's like I still don't really do that.
No,
just never quite mastered the Meteor Smash.
No. It was annoying to do that one achievement where it's like kill 3 enemies with Meteor Smash in one of the multi-man melee things.
Oh god, right.
I had to cheese that quite a lot.
Yeah.
But, it's cheesable because it's AI.
Yeah. Especially in the early phases of that, I guess. So we transition onto my Switch.
Yes. What else did you play on the Switch?
Yeah.
So we played quite a lot of couch multiplayer games that weekend.
As you would imagine.
Including Ultimate Chicken Horse.
Yep. It's a good one.
It turns out it is quite a good one. Yeah. I hadn't played it before, but it's got something. Like, so imagine taking Meat Boy, I suppose, with the way it kind of how it feels. Wall jumps and basic platforming mechanics. It's not quite as tight as Meat Boy or Celeste or anything like that, but that's what it's kind of what it's going for. You put it in so we were playing the party mode, which I think is the go-to mode for this thing.
Yeah.
So it starts off as you have a start point and an end point, and basically nothing in between, depending on the level you're playing. And it's about at the start of every round, every player gets an item that they have to put down somewhere in the play field to either make it easier to get to the finish, or just make it so you can get to the finish, or to impede all the players. So the idea is to try and you're constantly walking this delicate balance between making it difficult enough that you think you can do it, whilst making it not impossible.
Yeah,
and it actually works incredibly well.
It's the main. I think the main trick that makes it 100% work is that if no one reaches the end, you don't get any.
Yeah, no one. Yeah, it just doesn't score. Or likewise, if it's too easy.
Yeah, and if everyone makes it to the end, you don't get any points either.
No one gets a reward. So it's great. So the game is basically encouraging you to walk the balance, and it works pretty good. And then some of the combinations of stuff you can put together are quite great, because it has these blocks that have glue or honey patches on them, and once you've got a honey patch on a thing, you can attach something else to it.
Yeah.
So you can start creating moving monstrosities, like, I don't know, a rotating paper airplane launcher, or basically anything that fires projectiles on a rotation.
Yep.
Is basically evil. But so my arch nemesis was this tiny little gun thing that fires fiery pellets that are gravity affected. Because I just wouldn't see them coming.
Yeah.
So I'd just be in the middle of it. I'd be waiting for my precise moment to strike, and this bullet would just hit me. And I'm no, the bullets.
It is the one projectile in that game that has an arc. Gravity.
Yeah, because you got the ice hockey pucks as well that just fire super fast, but in a big horizontal line.
Yeah.
Again, except for when you put them on a rotator, and then they can go bloody anywhere,
or make them go just slightly past the black hole.
Yeah. The black holes are great. I love the black hole because everything is affected by it. So you could have a crossbow that's just firing casual, slow arrows across the stage, but then they get warped around by the black hole, and madness ensues. We had one level where the only way to complete it was basically to ride round the black hole.
Use the gravity well and sling yourself.
Yeah. I don't think anyone quite made that tactic work, but it was pretty funny to try. The only sort of shame sometimes is it would be quite nice to not have the round limit, but I suppose the levels can get quite cluttered otherwise.
Yeah, I guess
they do add a few items for actually just straight up deleting items.
Yeah. If you've made an impossible situation,
someone can at least choose to clean it up,
or if you've made it too easy, get rid of that cheapo jetpack or whatever.
And it's got one of those. It's basically got an infinite stage number because of the online stuff. You can go and just grab stages that other players have made and mix it up quite a lot. Most of them are bad.
Yeah,
has to be said. Most of them are bad, but we found a couple that were quite entertaining. One that was, I think it was called Patatis. And it was basically just this giant pink blob thing that was going, bah. But I would say if you're making that, a lot of people like making levels with the teleporter object in it and making it so it's the mandatory way to finish the level is to use this teleporter. The problem is teleporters put on a level in that way could just be deleted.
Right.
So someone could just go and delete the teleporter, and it's that's it. No one's finishing this level ever.
Unless you get another teleporter in the drops.
And then you rebuild it. Yeah, but you have to get two of them.
Oh, yeah, because they're paired.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's kind of a flaw. I think, the stages, if you put something down, they kind of have to not be destroyable. And there is a dedicated dance button.
Yep.
Which I was playing as the chicken. It made a lot of noise.
There's a setting you can have dance invincibility.
Oh, really?
Yep. While you're dancing, you just become invulnerable.
Well, okay, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
that could change the dynamic quite a bit, because there's a mode we didn't try where players bump into each other.
Yep,
as well. That sounds just, how is that going to work?
Work exactly the same way as Mario. Super Mario works in multiplayer. Stand on top of each other's heads,
except a lot faster.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. And we'd only really scratched the surface because we didn't really unlock a lot of the stages, because at least in party mode, the unlock process is quite random. You have to go to a stage that has a question. One of the stages you've unlocked will have a question mark on it in the select screen.
Right.
And if you go to that one, there'll be a question mark block, which if someone touches will open a random extra.
Oh.
But that random extra might just be a skin.
Oh, okay.
Like, it might not be a level. The first couple we got were levels, but like after that, things were like, oh, the sheep can become a ram if it wants to, and things like that. But there's probably a more mainstream way of unlocking stuff through the like challenge mode or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
maybe.
But in party mode, it's a bit randomized. It was good fun. It was good. Ultimate Chicken Horse. I recommend, if you can get a crew together to play it.
Yeah, you definitely need maximum people, ideally.
Yeah,
four.
It was really good with 4 players. The other thing we sort of spent a bit of time with was this game called 9 Parchments.
Parchments.
9 Parchments. I mean, it's a fairly average Gauntlet clone, I guess. But John likes his Gauntlet games, so and everyone can understand how they work.
Yeah, I guess. Not complicated.
No. Sort of like isometric view. Everyone kind of work together to get rid of the monsters. Friendly fire's on, so some fun stuff can happen. Like level your characters, like persistent characters and stuff like that. So level up, get stronger, try again, that kind of thing. And it's pretty run of the mill. Other than, like, it had this one feature that we thought was pretty funny, because you can change the mood of your character, but like, it will change the tone of like the hot chat you can do. Like, so you'll be like, press down on the D-pad, and then a load of options comes up, and press again, and you get another load of options, a bit like the Rocket League kind of thing. And there's voice lines associated with all that stuff. So there's like at least 4 layers of voice lines for every characters for everything they could say. So the best thing was like, okay, changing the moods normally doesn't have a sound associated with it, unless you do it through the pause menu, in which case the moods have a little bit of intro sound as well, intro speech. And one of the characters, for some reason, if you picked Bitter, had a couple of gems. Like, one of them we would just go, chip on shoulder. I don't know, we found that pretty funny. Just like, chip on shoulder. Or the other one, you'd go, gloomy mood. Which is so dumb. We were just playing with that for a while, just making him go, chip on shoulder. It was dumb. It's okay. It's a perfectly average game. What else did I do on the Switch? Splatfest.
Oh, yeah.
Final Fest happened.
And in unfortunate fashion, not that interesting. They didn't blow it out exactly.
I mean, yeah, they did and they didn't. Like, I kind of wish they made it run for longer than they added.
Well, that too. I mean, I guess it technically did run for longer by like 24 hours.
They added an extra day to Splatoon 2's final Splatfest. And it was Chaos versus Order. And like, usually if the last game was anything to go by, the last Splatfest will have minor story implications on the next Splatoon game. So, does this mean that Splatoon 3 is in the works?
Apparently not. I hear that a developer confirmed that they're not working on it.
Right. I mean, even if they
of
were,
course they would say that.
Even if they were, it'd be a couple years away, right?
Sure.
Same with Splatoon 1. It was a little while before 2 was announced.
Well, although that may partially have been tied to the hardware situation.
Probably.
They knew the NX at the time was coming.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's a bit of a shame. Like, I'm not quite sure. Like, I think the Switch has got quite a lot of life left in it, and so unless they're planning a Splatoon 3, Splatoon's still a popular game. Unless Switch Online killed it off, I don't really know. Like, what's the player base seemed fine while you're playing it.
Sure.
But like, maybe it fell off a cliff when Switch Online was introduced, and they've decided it's not worth running anymore. So let's just go for Final Fest. I mean, we kind of knew, they said a long time ago that they weren't doing any super new updates to
They said for a long time that everything was the last update, and then it wasn't.
And then they kept going. They kept adding new variants and new combinations and new skins and equipment. And they kept going for quite a long while, more than they said they would. So I think it's a bit of a bummer, because surely you could just keep running Splatfests, right? Or maybe even just take the voting aspect out, or like the importance of like chicken versus egg or whatever. Like take that stuff out and just have a couple teams. Who cares?
Well, I mean, it doesn't seem like there's anything that could just be fully automated. It's not like you have to moderate it or actually, review the votes or anything.
Just plan all this in advance and hit go.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't even matter too much, like because every one of the Splatfests has had a unique Shifty Station stage.
Yeah.
And this one, they didn't make a new one; they just put all of them in rotation.
Yeah.
Which was nice actually, because it meant that the map selection was way bigger than
yes, it was nice because it meant you didn't even just have 3 maps to choose from; you had lots more than 3.
You had loads, yeah. And so that was really nice actually. A kind of an argument against their map system a little bit. Their map system. The more I thought about their maps, the more it kind of makes sense, because you have to pick your loadout ahead of time. You don't know what of the maps you're going to get.
Yes, but that's a problem fixing a problem that they should have fixed a different way by allowing you to change loadouts in the lobby.
You should have had like the Call of Duty solution, right? Which is to have loadout slots.
Yeah, and pre-build your loadouts.
You set up 4 different loadouts or whatever, and goes right. We're about to load into this map. Pick your loadout. Go.
Yeah.
Just be quick about it. So it was. I don't know. It was nice being back to it. It made me buy a Switch Online account, because I was like, "Oh hell, this is the last one of these.
Last chance to experience the Shifty Stations.
I got to do this." Which means I also have dabbled with Tetris 99. So see what that's about.
Because you've already played quite a lot of Tetris recently, which probably helped.
Yeah, my Tetris game is all right at the moment, or at least it would be until okay, the Pro Controller D-pad.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of crap, as it turns out.
But
it
is at least a D-pad.
It is. It feels nice, but it's the sensitivity of it seems way off. Right, to the point where Tetris 99 has an option in it to try and deal with it. So, okay, I'll explain the problem. Tetris 99 is but for all accounts, the way it plays modern Tetris style. It's not quite the same as how Tetris Effect works, so I've noticed a couple of it seems quite eager to snap a block into place if it hits something else compared to Tetris Effect, which is taking me a while to get used to, especially when you're in trouble. It tends to just ding, way faster than Tetris Effect does, and it's oh right, I can't deal with this at high speeds as well as I can in Effect as a result of that. But the biggest problem for me is that. Okay, so you're hard dropping most of the time, right? You line up your piece and you press up to hard drop.
Because you're racing against all the other players.
Yeah,
you need to go quick.
Or more to the point, you're trying to build up a stack. So if someone attacks you, you can defend yourself, as I do. That's more my style. It's if a load of blocks is coming my way, I need a way to at least get a Tetris out of the way to try and reduce the effect of it.
Yeah.
And then maybe just counterattack with everything I've got if I'm lucky. Just all right, I've managed to counter your attack. Now I'm going to fire everything else I have at you. Ha! KO time. But yeah, so what actually happens is I've had this happen too many times for it to just be bat thumbing it. It doesn't feel quite right, because I'll line it up, I'll press hard drop, and then at some point, either during the hard drop or just before it, the process of me pressing up shifts it 1 block to the left or right. And I'm like, oh, that's really irritating. I'm trying to drop this, and it's shifting the precise moment I try and drop it. So I'm tempted to actually switch to Joy-Cons, because those separate buttons might actually be better.
Maybe.
So yeah, I don't know. The game I think is all right. I think it's it suffers a little bit from you can get properly ganged up on.
Oh, sure.
If multiple players target you all at once, you're kind of boned. There's not a huge amount you can do about it. You're just going to get one enormous attack that you can't. As long as you're clearing lines, you can either delay the attacks coming or eventually start actually reducing the effect of the attack. and it tends to stagger it a little bit, so you don't just get all the lines at once. It's like you'll get a batch of them, and then it'll give you some time to try and deal with the next wave of it. But like, in fairness, if you're getting an attack where it's coming in multiple waves, you're in a bit of trouble. The chances of you nullifying all of that are pretty slim. And so it suffers a little bit from that, and I don't know. I'm not really watching what's going on the other panels, so like targeting is a bit of a pain. Like it auto targets based on a certain set of rules you can pick.
Yeah.
So you can be like, oh, target people who are nearly dead to get the KOs, which you supposedly need because it increases your attack power if you get more KOs. Earn these badges. Or you can attack those that are attacking you, or you can what are the other ones? Just random. I think there's just a random one. I can't remember what the fourth option is, but yeah. So you're effectively. I think if you've got the touch screen, if you're playing handheld, you can poke one of the panels specifically.
Yeah, it's like Meteos. You never ever used it, but you could technically choose which target you wanted to choose.
You could target a specific player, which I guess would be super helpful in this if you were really gunning for KOs. But you have to be watching all those other damn panels to like get a feel for that. And there's a lot of panels, and they're tiny, and they don't get big. I think I'd quite like them to get bigger as people get knocked out. Like, just show who's left, please. I don't need to know who's out.
And that'd be kind of cool, because then you could get down to like the one-on-one screen where it's just like two halves of a screen.
Yeah, you could go to classic mode, and that would be pretty cool. I mean, it's got a pretty decent version of the main Tetris theme as its music. I don't know how to. There are like the game does support multiple themes and multiple things, and supposedly there was a Splatoon 2 theme floating about at one point, but maybe I missed that.
Well, I think that was during the Splatfest or slightly before.
I don't know. So that would have been cool to have. But I don't know. I don't know about any of that stuff. I've leveled up a few times and I've not got anything for it. So it's kind of okay, but I just need to get over that control problem. And it really does feel like a problem. It's like it's thrown me enough times where I did at one point just say F this game because it's like I'm enjoying it, but then like I get boned too much by that little quirk.
Have you tried it with the Joy-Cons?
I haven't yet, no. So like I will give it another stab. I have to find where my grip is.
Yeah, the grippy
I haven't used it in ages. Or just play it portable. I've got an excuse to, like, Monday I've got an awkward scenario with my car being MOT'd, so I might have a lot of time on my hands to play portable games in a place that's not here. Maybe I'll play Luigi's Mansion, or get further with, like, Super Mario 3D Land on my 3DS. I hope it's sunny, but not too hot.
They announced the release date of Luigi's Mansion 3.
Oh, did they? News?
It's Halloween.
Oh, of course.
Of course it is.
Of course. Well done, Nintendo. Yeah, that's probably the extent of what I've been doing on my Switch. I haven't really investigated anything else with my online account.
Well, you've only just had it.
Yeah. I suppose at some point I should go digging through the custom stages for Smash.
Possibly.
See what fun stuff is there.
See what
add to our list of possibilities. Any more double entard holes? And aside from that, and obviously Rocket League that we talked about earlier, still chugging away at Kiwami. I'm beginning to think that game is way bigger than I think it is.
Oh, really?
Still.
Yeah, I don't think I'm as far. Well, I got a trophy popped up just yesterday that said half the battle, and that means I've got my completion rating to 50%.
Yeah,
but that's like full completion. Not
that
is
the full completion. Yeah. So I don't know how far through the story I am.
That's all right then.
Particularly,
you've probably
that means I'm 50% on total completeness.
You're not aiming for that though, are you?
Not really. I don't. No. I mean, it depends what some of these Chivos are, but a lot of them are locked, so you can't really see what they are.
Yeah.
I think there's a few targets I want to go for, but I'm kind of just enjoying the randomness of that world. Really, it's just mad. I've had a couple more Majima everywhere scenarios that were pretty entertaining. I love that. That's probably the best thing about the game, actually, the Majima everywhere thing. I talked about it last week, but just where he turns up, it's like it is literally everywhere. Everything you can do in that game, I think there's a way of getting Majima in it at some point. And it's great. I love it. It's just a question of when. It's like, well, if I go do this thing now, will he be there? I've got him into slot car racing. That's the last thing I've. At some point, I've got to beat him at a battle in slot car racing, and I can't at the moment. So I'm still loving it. I think it's really good. It's got to the point where I'm still not doing a huge amount of story though. Unfortunately, because there's just so many side quests to do. It threw a really interesting main storyline at me actually. That every now and then this game does something really clever. I think with its how it structures itself. Like I talked before about the Dragon of Dojima thing, where I think it's cool that after 10 years in prison, your main fight style has got rubbish, and so it becomes mechanically important to make it better over the course of the game. And it's that's neat trick. But there's this other thing they did where it's I need to lay low for a while, and then the game doesn't give you an objective.
Right.
And it's and it's not. And I thought it's oh right, I literally have to just dick around for a while, and then something will happen. No. The world, something happens in the world at some point, and people are just talking about it. You'll overhear conversations, and then it's if you go investigate that thing, then the story progresses, and it's just it's a little thing, admittedly, and it's I probably could have gone to that place and done that thing immediately. But I just really liked the subtlety of it. It's for something where the game has basically been in your face giant text telling you what to do next. This was kind of nice to be oh hey, there's something's happened. Just go have a look. I'm constantly impressed by this game. It's
that does sound cool. Like a nice, relatively subtle thing, but it turns out to be important.
I mean, I wish some of the sub-story stuff. I mean, it's all well written, but I wish more of it didn't just come back to have a conversation, then a fight, and then everyone's very sorry for what they did. I wish that pattern broke a little more. Some of them are some of those scenarios are pretty funny, admittedly. There's one where the same gang tries to scam you the same way 5 times, and each time you're getting increasingly annoyed at them for being seriously, how have you not learnt your lesson yet, and things like that. And it gets progressively worse. And ends quite well. So it's I think whoever Sega have doing their localizations, they're pretty great. It might be
must be important.
Oh, who is it? Is it the 9-4 guys? 8-4. Yeah, I think they work on it quite a bit.
What other games do they do?
Don't know. But they're the friends of Giant Bomb that are occasionally on their podcast.
I see. Yeah.
They're fairly prolific.
Yeah, and I think they do translations the other way as well, into Japanese.
Oh, do they? Interesting.
I think they may have been involved in Undertale when that got translated.
Okay, cool. But yeah, no, it's solid work here for sure. To the point where I'm given how quickly they seem to have been bashing these out, I'm now intrigued to know what's different between this and the others.
Worried that it might not be that different.
Yeah, I know for a fact that they reuse Kamurocho every game. Pretty much every game is set in the same district.
Yeah,
so the map doesn't really change. And I thought at first that the sort of small area in which it is set was going to be a problem, but it kind of isn't actually. You get to know it pretty well. You get to know it's I'm a bit low on health. The barbecue place is over there, and I know for a fact one of their meals is just going to give pretty much a lot of their meals is going to give me max health. So it's I'll hobble over that way, sort myself out. Oh, I know the drugstore's down here, and I'm a little low on mid-fight medicine, so I'll go get some over here. It's there's a nice familiarity to learning the environment, so you're not using the map so much. Yeah, they make it. It's kind of one of those things. It sort of oozes a little bit of this looks like it should be a budget title at sometimes. It's not the sharpest looking thing, and there's a lot of text heavy stuff in places. Not everything's voice acted. They make it work. Somehow they make it work. It's kind of baffling. It's a great game. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah, check it out. If you're going to play Yakuza, is this a good place to start?
To me, I mean, I think there's so I've heard there's a lot of like references to the rest of the series in it, but like obviously I'm not picking those up, but it's not bothering me.
No,
I'm not. Supposedly the new one they put out, it's not a Yakuza game, but it's in the same universe. But Judgment is supposed to be a very good jumping on point.
Oh, really?
But,
they seem to make a lot of this stuff.
They do, yeah. Like Kiwami 2, I think came out earlier this year as well as Judgment. I think they're teasing that Yakuza 7 is in the works.
I guess they don't have to worry about like Western sales because they make.
Well, yeah, because it's always been crazy popular. Yeah. There's a certain Sega-ness to this as well. Apart
from the explicit Sega-ness.
Apart from the explicit Sega-ness, there's that sort of indescribable Sega feel about this game that I think is helping me a lot, because it's that I don't really know how to describe it. There's just a feel to how Sega do things that I feel like it's been missing for quite a while, and yet this still has it. But maybe it's a certain clunkiness, I don't know, or a certain look, or a certain behind the times. I don't. Those all sound like negatives, but there is just a certain Sega way that this has. Like, it feels like old Sega, not publisher Sega.
Yeah.
Sonic Adventure Sega. I don't know. Yeah. Really, really enjoying my time of it. You'll probably hear from me a good few more times on this one.
Excellent.
Still acutely aware in the back of my mind that we're not playing much 2019 stuff, but
that's why are you always worried about?
I know I shouldn't be, really. It's not what our podcast is about, but it's
no.
And we'll, as I think I probably said several times last year, we're not even at the part of the year where the games come out yet.
We're not at the point where we spend the money on games. I've basically spent no money on games this year. I've done pretty well.
Has it felt like how's the year feeling now we're halfway through? I don't know.
Oh, and like in terms of like 2019 as a year for games, I don't think I'm that impressed yet.
No, not yet.
Compared to last year.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's all about that back half, isn't it?
Yep.
Occasionally you get some mega thing come out in like February because it slipped or something, but not this year.
I'm trying to think what it's
and that's next year when Animal Crossing comes out in March.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I'm trying to think what it's actually about this year, even still. Like, is it about the Ds, like the Death Stranding versus the game I've now immediately forgotten just as it was in my head? Something else beginning with D. Doom Eternal, there we go.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, maybe. We are yet to find out.
Those seem like the standouts. I mean, that Wolfenstein game came out. And that had a little bit of hype.
Yeah, a little bit.
Sekiro, I suppose. Was that this year?
I suppose it was, yeah. Not in our wheelhouse, but yeah, that was early. But Control's out very soon. And that seems to have quite a high amount of hype about it for a Remedy game. That ray tracing.
Cool. I think we're
Nintendo's not got much else on, have they?
Well, it's Pokemon
and Luigi, and that's it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I guess they've done Mario Maker. That's
well, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
I might dabble with that.
I mean,
I might see if I can find the problem I think I'll have with that is I just won't engage with the Maker stuff as much as I think that game. Dreams is supposedly still coming out this year.
Does that even count as a game? Again, as we keep saying,
game of games.
Yeah.
Supposedly someone remade a Final Fantasy VII sequence in Dreams, but made it actually really very good.
Because they can have quite a lot more polygons in Dreams than Final Fantasy VII had at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't even really understand Little Big Planet, how that worked, and Dreams just seems another level of like how.
Yeah, bonkers complicated. Well, complicated but not at the same time. If you don't want it to be complicated, it cannot be complicated, but if you want to do stuff, the tools are all there somewhere. It seems insane. And we've already seen a ridiculous variety of stuff on that platform. Now's the time to buy in, though, while it's still cheap in its early access form.
Yeah, I guess that's true. If you're going to be into it, why not be into it now?
If you don't care about the campaign that Media Molecule are crafting anyway. If you want bomb run levels.
You want all sharks, all the times.
Yep.
Cool. Well, I've not played anything, but hopefully I'll be better, get better soon, and I can start playing games again. Give me some time.
Get game.
Yeah.
Get game.
Need to get back to being able to enjoy things like games.
Games will cure all ill.
Apart
Eventually.
from RSI.
Apart from RSI. No, they will probably make RSI a lot worse.
Yeah, that's not... I do have that, so that's not good.
Need to think of a one-hand... Oh, what, you could play one-finger death punch with your left hand.
Nah, it's okay.
That'd be bad.
I think I'm okay with a controller relatively, so...
Could try playing Mario Tennis on the N64 one-handed, and with maybe using your feet or your mouth.
God.
And so you can then eventually learn how to play doubles by yourself.
It's fine.
But Mario Tennis, yeah.
Might as well play Wii Sports Tennis. Then you only have to be able to hold a controller.
Oh, that's
you
true.
have to push any buttons, technically.
Wii Sports might be a thing.
Wafted around. Yeah, that's true.
You could get really into drop mix.
Just play with cards. Yeah. That's true. Card games can't go. Board games, no problems with RSI.
No, pretty much no. Unless there's a lot of dice roll.
Yeah. But then you make an auto roll tower.
Oh, true. Yeah. You could get like one of those little bobbles from like Frustration or whatever, where you just pop it.
Those are good.
Do
they make those with D20s in?
Yeah, would actually play that game.
I mean, it's the thing. Frustration, right, was just famous just for that dice popper, right?
It was used in other games as well.
Was it?
Yeah.
I don't remember ever actually playing the game, just popping the dice.
I mean, a couple of those games, same vein as like Ludo or whatever. They're such basic games. You play them one time and that's it.
Yeah, and then you're like, all right, well, I know what that is now. We were going, before we played far too much Ultimate Chicken Horse, we were going to play a board game called Wingspan, which is supposedly about attracting birds to your well curated garden. I thought
you were about to say attracting birds to your other bird.
Attract birds to my bird.
Bird mating simulator.
And I'm going to have a bird harem in the sky. Guy brothel. I just need to find a bird big enough for everyone to sit on. In flight.
Wow. I think this podcast may have gone far enough then.
Yeah, I guess so. We're actually on time this week, not early.
Not too bad.
On time and we're feeling fine.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, listeners. Do check out our YouTube channel, including a brand new video as of this recording of Kerbal Space Program.
I feel like there was more positivity this week.
Yeah. For the 50th anniversary of the Apollo landing, check out Robert Zek trying to do the same thing.
Available on YouTube now.
Yeah, available on YouTube now. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks for another Saladcast, and hopefully there'll be more news next time.
Maybe.
We shall see.
Oh, I'll tell you what, though. One more thing.
Just one more thing.
Preview of what will be on the next podcast, because I almost forgot. Oxygen Not Included finally has an actual launch date.
What?
They've just barely made we're releasing in July by releasing on July the 30th. So I guess I'll be playing that a lot. So that's my preview for the next podcast.
Yeah.
I may also attempt to make a video of it.
Cool. So tune in for video and audio content on Oxygen Not Included next time from the Saladcast.
There will be things.
Indeed. Bye.
Bye.